On November 17th, 1990, David Klingler, the quarterback for Houston University, did something that has never been done before or since. He came out on fire against Eastern Washington and threw 11 touchdowns to 8 different players, breaking the record for the most touchdowns in a single game and capping one of the statistically greatest seasons by a quarterback in college football history. Join us today as we dive into this historic game, today on Daily Sports History. Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm Ethan Reese, your guide, because it took me over 10 years of backyard football to throw 11 touchdowns. So, David Klingler was born into a sports-loving family in Texas. Now, he grew up mostly in Ohio, but he did make his way back to Texas, where he attended Stratford High School in Houston. And his high school was a wishbone team he was playing on. He was the quarterback. He got to pass the ball about 5 times a game, and he would pass the ball as far as he could, but it wasn't the emphasis. And this happened a lot back in the 80s and 90s, where high schools were very simple. With the wishbone offense, it was very easy to run no matter who your linemen were, and a lot of times talent got buried. But he was able to catch the eye of a scout from Houston who saw his raw arm strength and actually got a scholarship offer into one of the most pass-happy offenses in the country. And he would go on to, as they would tell him, he reminded them of Jim Kelly, who was at the top of his game at the time. And their run-and-shoot offense was insane at the time. Andre Ware would go on in this offense to win the Heisman Trophy at Houston, who was not known as a power football conference. And who was his backup when Andre Ware won the Heisman? It was David Klingler in 1989. And since he was behind the Heisman Trophy winner for the first couple of seasons, he didn't get to play a whole lot. But he was learning and getting even more reps in practice, learning the system. So when Andre Ware went on to the NFL, David Klingler fit right in and instantly kept Houston in the national spotlight. Because in 1990, David Klingler officially took over the reins from Andre Ware, and he led Houston to a 10-1 record that season, where he would amass over 5,100 passing yards and 54 touchdowns, finishing 5th in the Heisman, despite the fact that Houston was under penalties and sanctions from the NCAA and couldn't even participate in bowl games. But there was one game this season that was unlike any other. It happened on November 17th, 1990, when they faced off against Eastern Washington, who just happened to be the wrong team at the wrong time. See, Eastern Washington was coming to play Houston, who was playing at the time at the Houston Astrodome, one of the most iconic indoor stadiums ever, and it meant that it was a fast turf. And it was unusual for other teams because it was AstroTurf, where not a lot of teams got to play on that. So they had an instant advantage with whoever they played. And unfortunately for Eastern Washington, Houston had just played Texas the week before, who beat them, knocking them out of the chance to have a perfect season. So it was their first loss of the season. They come in and they want revenge. They want to show that they are still a dominant team. They ranked 12th in the nation at the time, and Eastern Washington was not a power school. They are a smaller school. Right now, they are in the FCS, which at the time was Division IIA, and a much weaker opponent. They don't have as many scholarships. They don't have as many top-tier talent, as Houston was becoming a great school for football, as they just had the Heisman Trophy winner the year before. And David came out slinging. He put together in the first quarter almost a perfect game, going 13 for 14, guiding Houston on touchdown drives on their first 6 possessions. And by the time it was halftime, the game looked like a blowout, 42-14, but he wasn't done yet. He had great receivers helping him out, Chuck Weatherspoon and Manny Hernandez, who each caught 2 touchdowns. John Brown and Tracy Good each caught a touchdown themselves, and he was in constant rhythm. The Astrodome was in awe of what he was doing. In the second half, he came out, put together even more, including a 40-yard touchdown to Verlin Brown and back touchdowns of 8 and 7 yards to Patrick Cooper, spreading it around. And by the third quarter, he had already tied the record for the most touchdown passes in a game in NCAA history with 9, who was done by Dennis Shaw in 1969. And then he would throw another 8-yard touchdown pass to Tyondre Sanders to get him the record at 10. But he wasn't done yet. Klingler continued to go and scored one more touchdown before the game was over. He threw a 51-yard touchdown pass to Marcus Grant, giving him 11 touchdowns. He would finish the game with 11 touchdowns, completing 41 of his 58 pass attempts for 572 yards, winning the game 84-21. And many thought you were just running up the score. But John Jenkins, the coach at the time for Houston, was unapologetic about running up the score because at the time, that's how you got higher in the rankings. That's how you showed your worth, is you beat up on these teams. You didn't cut loose. And it gave Klingler the chance to do something no one had ever done before. And it cemented himself in the history of the NCAA, a record that still stands to this day. 11 touchdowns has never been thrown in a game since this has happened. He would also go on that year to break the record for the most touchdown passes in a season at 54, which would last for 16 years. And he wasn't done breaking records. Later that season, he would go on to face Arizona State and throw for a record 716 yards in one game, showing he was one of the most productive quarterbacks in college football history this season. Although he didn't get to have a chance to play for a national championship, be in a playoff, or play in a bowl game because of the sanctions. But he did elevate Houston, showing that they weren't just Andre Ware's team. They were building something. And he would finish his career with Houston with 9,400 yards and 91 touchdowns, which is still among the top in NCAA history. Now, his following season, his senior year, he would have a quality season, but nowhere close to as successful as his previous. He would throw for over 3,000 yards and 29 touchdowns, as the team struggled to stay relevant after all their sanctions and struggled to recruit. And so his college career on a down note, but he would be a first-round draft pick by the Cincinnati Bengals in 1992. But at that time, the Cincinnati was not known for their quarterback play. He'd be the 6th pick overall by the Cincinnati Bengals and go on to play there for 3 years, but would struggle mightily with them. He had injuries, lots of coaching changes, and wasn't able to grow like he did in college. And his playing style was one that was successful at the time, very similar to a Brett Favre, but he just didn't have as much success, and he would throw many turnovers throughout his career and finish his NFL career after a stint with the Oakland Raiders and even the Green Bay Packers. He would go on to retire, throwing more interceptions than touchdowns and having a passer rating of 65. But the great thing is, if you dominate in college, you are a hero at that college forever. And Houston would go on to retire his number 7 jersey, and he's still a legend in Houston to this day. So you don't always know when you peak, but when you do, go for it all, just like David Klingler did. You don't know when you'll get the chance to do it again. I want to thank you for listening to today's Daily Sports History. If you like this, please make sure you follow us wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss an episode, because we got another one coming for you tomorrow. And we'll see you on the next one.